Integration in logical learning.
Today we will be discussing about a chapter from grade 6 ICSE lesson 1 categories of computer and computer languages prepared by Sangita Bose. Introduction. A computer is an electronic device that can accept data, input, or process data in accordance with the specified laws that are generated information, output, and the store information for future use. Now there are some classification of computer based on the size, based on the data, and based on the purpose. Now the computers that are based on size are microcomputer, minicomputer, supercomputer, and mainframe computer. Computers that are based on data are analog computer, digital computer, hybrid computer. And the computers that are based on purpose are general purpose computer and special purpose computer. Now let's quickly take a look on the classification of computer based on data. Now there are three computers. This classification is based on the way they act: analog computer, digital computer, and hybrid computer. What are analog computers? This machine is not very general, operates by the data calculation. Thermometers, speed meters, and electric meters are examples. Scientists and engineers use these. They are used to measure temperature, velocity, and the current. Now, what a digital computer? As the name suggests, they accept data, zeros and ones, in binary form only. They work by counting the data. Most of the machines are electric: calculators, most head, car, speedometers, electronic watch, and stop watch are other gadgets that act as digital computers. Now let's take a look about the classification of the digital computers. First comes the desktop, then comes the workstation, then comes the notebook, then there is a tablet PC, then there is a handheld computer, and then there is a smartphone. Now, what are hybrid computers? It is a digital computer that recognizes and transforms the analog signals into digital form and processes them. They act as both analog and digital computers. They function by weighing and recording the data as well. This is the sort used for exploring space. Much like going to moon, they are also used to control robots. Now the classification of the computer according to its size and the speed. There are four different sizes of a computer. They are mainframe computer, supercomputer, microcomputer, and minicomputer. Now we will discuss about what a mainframe computer. Mainframe computers are those computers that offer faster processing and greater storage area. The word mainframe comes from the metal frames. It is also known as the father computer. Applications. It can be applied as a host computer, as a central database server. Mainframes are actually the machines that the companies such as banks, airlines, and railways use to conduct millions and trillions of transactions online per second. It is also used to execute complex tasks in large corporations or in government organizations. Now, the production of bulk data such as censuses, market and customer reports, enterprise resource planning, and transaction processing. They are mostly used for scientific research purposes. Now, what are the features? Important mainframe features are: they are large in size, many times faster than the servers, usually many of the megabytes per second. They are also very expensive. Proprietary OS offered by the manufacturers, inbuilt security features for the hardware, software, and the firmware. Now let's take a quick look about what are supercomputer. Supercomputers are the computers that are designed for scientific research, such as forecasting, artificial intelligence, and so on. They are the fastest and the costliest. A supercomputer includes a variety of CPUs that operate alongside each other to make it faster. It is also known as a machine for the grandfather. Application: a supercomputer is used in weather forecasting, nuclear power plants, military simulation, laboratories of science, and animation films. A picture of the same is given here in the right hand side. There are other features as well. They have more than one CPU, central processing unit, which includes the instructions for interpreting the instructions and performing arithmetic and logical operations. The supercomputer will support the CPUs with incredibly high processing speed. They can work on pairs of number lists rather than pairs of numbers. They were initially used in national defense, nuclear weapons design, and cryptographic applications. Yet nowadays, the aerospace, automobile, and petroleum industries still employ them. Let's move on to the microcomputers. Microcomputer is a small computer. Your personal computers are equivalent to the microcomputer. Mainframe and minicomputer is the ancestor of microcomputer. Integrated circuit fabrication technology reduces the size of mainframe and minicomputer. Technically, a microcomputer is a computer in which the CPU or the central processing unit or the brain of the computer is contained on one single chip, a microprocessor. Input or output devices and storage or the memory unit. All these components are important for a proper working of the microcomputer. Now the types of microcomputer. First comes the notebook. Notebook is the smallest microcomputer which can be ultra mobile 3 inches thick with less than 3 pounds lightweight and smaller than a briefcase. Allow for easy setup in a room. A notebook can be effectively connected to the internet ISP via a cable or a Wi-Fi. Oh, now what is a laptop? Laptop microcomputer is bigger than the notebook computer, powered by a battery and designed for low power consumption, which can be smaller than a briefcase. Although laptops and desktop computers have same capabilities, a laptop also has a thin display screen with attached keyboard and a touchpad used for navigation. Desktop. Desktop are personal computers and bigger than notebooks and laptops. These microcomputers consist of the system unit, keyboard and monitor. Desktop microcomputers are cheaper than the laptops or the notebooks. Unlike a notebook, which is ultra mobile, a desktop microcomputer is stay at one location. The desktop microcomputers are more reliable than notebooks and the laptops, and they are also easy to repair. Workstations. A terminal or a desktop computer in a network. In this context, workstation is just a generic term for a user's machine, client machine, in contrast to a server or a mainframe. Features and application of a microcomputer. Now, what are the features? It has a limit input and output device, small size and low cost, have a low storage capacity, limited range of software can be used, one user at a time, easy to use, low computing power and commonly used for personal application. Now the applications. They are used in personal computer, multi-user system and offices. Now what are mini computer? These are also small general purpose system. They are generally more powerful and most useful as compared to microcomputer. Mini computer are also known as mid-range computer or child computer. This is smaller than mainframe computer but bigger than microcomputer. It can be used by many people at the same time. It is not as expensive as the mainframe. It is not as fast as the mainframe. A picture of the mini computer is given here below. Now, what are the features and the application? For the features, its size is smaller than a mainframe or a supercomputer. It is also less expensive than the mainframe or the supercomputer. It is less powerful than the mainframe or a supercomputer and more powerful than microcomputers and workstations. It can do several tasks at once. It can be used by many people at one time, and it is also used by small enterprises. Applications. They are used in scientific research, banks and large organizations, departmental systems, network servers, and work group system. I think this much is clear to you all. Now let's move on to the classification of the computer by purpose. Computer can be categorized by its purpose. There are two main purposes of a computer. These purposes are special and general. Now what a general purpose computer? These are designed to solve a large variety of problems. Example is microcomputer, which can be used for word processing, spreadsheet, database, games, communication, and other jobs. And what a special purpose computer? These computers are made for one particular purpose. Example is a word processor computer, which can only be used for typesetting of documents. The computer that landed man on the moon was specially built for that purpose. Robots are special computer built to do what man could have been doing by himself. Now it's time to discuss about the parts of a computer. Computer has two parts, hardware and the software. Hardware includes CPU, input device and output device, while the software includes system software, application software and utility software. I think we all here know that what is a hardware. Mechanical, electrical, electronic or other physical equipment and machinery associated with a computer system or necessary for the playback or the projection of non-print media. Basic microcomputer hardware includes a central processing unit CPU, input and output devices. Now comes the central processing unit. Here is a block diagram given of the computer. Central Processing Unit or the CPU. CPU is the brain of a computer. It is normally an Intel Pentium or equivalent. It receives the data as input, follows the instruction and processes the data accordingly, presents the information as output to the user. Its primary function is to execute the programs. It controls and coordinates all components such as memory, input and output devices. CPU consists of two units. One control unit or the CU and the other one is arithmetic and logic unit or ALU. Now what are input devices? Input devices allows the user to enter the information into the system or control its operation. Example can be keyboard, mouse, optical mouse, trackball, joystick, light pin, webcam, barcode reader, touchscreen, etc. And what are output devices? An output device is a piece of hardware that is used to display or output data which has been processed or has been stored on the computer. Examples are monitor, printer, speaker, and plotter. Now, here is a chart given for the classification of memory. By now, we all know that what is a software. Programs written in a special language with a series of instructions to a computer or its peripherals that cause the computer to solve a problem or perform a task to achieve a specific set of results. Simply a set of instructions necessary for a computer to accomplish required tasks. User and then application software, then comes the operating software, then comes hardware. Do you know what a system software? System software in case a system, it helps the user as well as the hardware to function and even interact with each other easily. Essentially, it is a software which is used to manage the behavior of the computer hardware in order to offer basic functionalities which are needed by the user. Few of the common system software examples are operating system. It enables direct communication between the hardware, system programs and other applications. Device driver. It enables the device communication with the OS and the other applications. Firmware. It enables the low-level device control and identification. Translators. To translate the high-level language code to low-level machine code. Utilities. To ensure the optimum functionality of the devices and the applications. Here comes the application software, a software which is developed to help the user to perform specific tasks is called application software. Now the application software is a term which is used for software created for a specific purpose. It is generally a program or a collection of programs used by the end users. It can be called an application or simply an app. Now there are examples of application softwares. These are as follows: word processing software, database programs, entertainment software, business software, educational software, computer aided design CAD software or spreadsheet software, etc. Now let's do something fun. Let's discuss about the human language versus the computer language. Human language commonly used to express feelings and understand other person's expression. It can be oral or gestural kind of communication. But for the computer language, a computer language is one in which the user commands the computer to work on the algorithm which a user has written to get an output. Do you know what is programming? A series of instructions to a computer to accomplish a task. Instructions must be written in a way that the computer can understand. Programming languages are used to write programs. Once the code or the language of a program has been written, it must be executed, run, and started. Some programming languages like Java or C++ requires the code to be compiled, translated to binary before it can be started. Others like JavaScript are interpreted, meaning that each command has translated separately when the program is started. What is programming language? A programming language is a notational system for describing the computation in a machine readable and human readable form. A programming language is a tool for developing the executable models for a class of problem domains, a vocabulary and a set of grammatical rules for instructing a computer to perform specific tasks. Programming languages are used to facilitate the communication about the task of organizing and manipulating information and to express the algorithms precisely. I think we all have noticed it earlier in our English language classes that we often use a full stop after completing a sentence, and it means that the sentence is complete. In the same way, while we are coding, we need to command to the computer so that it can execute properly. This is the reason why we use programming language. What are non-computational languages? Non-computational languages such as markup languages like HTML or formal grammars like BNF are usually not considered programming languages. Often, a programming language is embedded in the non-computational language. Evolution of programming languages. First generation machine language, second generation assembly language, third generation high level languages such as Pascal, C, COBOL, Fortran. Fourth generation are the scripting languages such as SQL, AppleScript, VBA script, and the fifth generation is the AI language. Now let's talk about the types of computer languages. There are three types: low level language, assembly level language, and high level language. Now, what do you mean by machine level language? It is the lowest level programming language. Machine languages are the only languages that are understood by the computers. And what are low level languages? A low level programming language is a programming language that provides little or no abstraction from a computer's instruction set architecture. It consists of numeric codes, that is 0 and 1. These codes are easily understandable to the computer but difficult to human. A low level language is used in two generations of computer, first generation and second generation. For example, an x86 by IA-32 processor can execute the following binary instruction as expressed in machine language: binary 1011000011000001. Now let's talk about its characteristics also. Direct memory management, little to no abstraction from the hardware, register access. Statements usually have an obvious correspondence with the clock cycles and superb performance. Advantages and disadvantages of low level language. Advantages are computational speed is very fast and it directly understands by the computer. And what are the disadvantages? Development of a program in machine language is very time consuming. Error correction is tedious process. Now, what are assembly language? A utility program called an assembler is used to translate assembly language statements into the target computer's machine code. The assembler performs a more or less isomorphic translation, one-to-one mapping from the mnemonic statements into the machine instructions and data. Example: assembly language representation is easier to remember, more mnemonic. Means move the hexadecimal value 6197 decimal into the processor register named AL. The mnemonic MOV is an operation code or opcode, a comma separated list of arguments or parameters follows the opcode. Now, what is high level language? High level programming languages allow the specification of a problem solution in terms closer to those used by human beings. These languages were designed to make programming far easier, less error prone, and to remove the programmer from having to know the details of the internal structure of a particular computer. This language is used in third generation. Example: C, Pascal, Fortran, COBOL, C++, Java, C, Visual Basic, etc. And what are the characteristics of high level language? Interpreted, dynamic constructs, open classes, message style methods, etc. Poor performance, concise code, flexible syntax, good for internal DSLs. Now, what are the advantages and the disadvantages of the high level language? Advantages are these are simple to adopt due to their English like structure of statements. They are easy to maintain and debug. And what are the disadvantages? The programs written in high-level language are less efficient as they take more execution time. The compiler also consumes some memory as it is required for the translation process. Now let's take a look at the evolution of programming languages. High-level programming languages are divided into three generations, each more powerful than the last. Third generation languages, fourth generation languages, and then comes the fifth generation languages. Do you know what are actually the third generation language? Third generation languages or the 3GLS are the first to use true English like phrasing, making them easier to use than the previous languages. 3GLS are portable, meaning the object code created for one type of system can be translated for use on a different type of system. The following languages are 3GLS: Fortran C, COBOL C++, Basic Java, and Pascal. Now, what are fourth generation language? Fourth generation languages or 4GLS are even easier to use than 3GLS. 4GLS may use a text-based environment like a 3GL or may allow the programmer to work in a visual environment using graphical tools. The following languages are 4GLS, Visual Basic or VB, and Visual Age. Now let's talk about fifth generation language. A fifth generation programming language is a programming language that is designed to make the computer solve the problem of you. Fifth generation language are used mainly in artificial intelligence research. Prolog, OPS5 and Mercury are the best known fifth generation languages. What is an assembler? Instructions written in an assembly level language must be translated to machine language instructions. Assembler does these two functions. One-to-one translation. One AL instruction is mapped to one ML instruction and the AL instructions are CPU specific. You can see through this diagram that how an assembler works. Compiler. I think we all have heard about this term earlier as well. Instructions written in high-level language also must be translated in machine language. Compiler does these two functions. Generally, one-to-many translation. One HL instruction is mapped to many ML instruction and the HL instructions are not CPU specific but compiler is. Interpreter. An interpreter translates high-level instructions into an intermediate form, which it then executes. In contrast, a compiler translates the high-level instructions directly into machine language. Compiled programs generally run faster than the interpreted programs. And there are four types of programming languages: functional, Lisp, ML, and Scheme, good for evaluating expressions. Then comes declarative, Prolog, and good for making logical inferences. Then comes imperative, C, Pascal, Fortran, COBOL. They are good at performing calculations, implementing algorithms. And last, object oriented, C++, Java, C, Visual Basic, much like imperative languages but have support for communication among the objects. Now the chart showing the history of programming languages. Thank you for watching this video, and if you have any queries or doubts, you can put the same in the comment box below. See you in the next class. Bye bye.